Oh, you want to start?
Okay.
All right. Just a minute till I get my script ready to go.
You good? Okay, good afternoon. Welcome everybody. I mean, it's our first Council Connections of the year. And I just want to remind you that this is happening even once or twice a month on the first or third Thursday of the month, because that's when we have the council meetings. Now, for some of you that attended the Residents Association meeting last month, we had a combination of snippets of the different interviews from last year. Unfortunately, there was a very severe technical difficulty and the sound was really bad. This has been already addressed, and all those interviews have been recorded, so they are all available on the YouTube channel. So you can go to those channels. I'm going also to send a notice to all the community so people can access them, know how to get into that. So without further ado, I mean, our first interview of the year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hi, Nora.
Hi there, Elaine.
It's nice to be here with all of you. And I think everybody is familiar with Nora and all the work that she does. Can you hear me? Is it better this way? Okay. Nora and all the work that she does, especially with, in my view, with the movement and music group that we have, and which has been an absolute pleasure for me for the past, I would say 8 months, and I love it. So I'm going to turn the mic over, symbolically speaking, to Nora, and let her give you a sub-part of her resume, which actually, if you were to read it, you would be all blown away. It's just an amazing resume.
Thank
So,
you.
okay,
Thank
Nora,
you.
it's all yours.
Right, yeah. So I was encouraged, or am being encouraged, to get into how did this music movement and you come to be, and where did it come from? And so I'm going to try to tell you some of it. And see me later if we need more detail. Anyway, so I began in a ballet company as a child, right? A child of 17. And I was in a repertory company in Canada. When I say repertory, I mean it wasn't like a dance troupe. It was a classical ballet company in Toronto, Canada, with a very well-known and marvelous artistic director, Celia Franca, who came from England to create this company in Toronto. All the people with money wanted it, so we got going. So, you know, in the classical repertory, you have the big pieces. You have Swan Lake, Giselle, Coppelia, what else, Sleeping Beauty, etc., plus smaller pieces. And so I was with that company for 11 years. We spent most of our time, 75% of it in any case, on the road, because that's where the money was. They were all guaranteed dates through Canada, the United States, Mexico. And later in my life, I returned to touring in Italy. So it just, you know, kept going. And so I was so totally giving myself over to the ballet, to the regiment, like being in the army or a nun. Either one will do in a ballet company. Plus all the politics and the relationships. And so it was just a great format for living here. No, I love this community. I love that community too. But I love this community. You all are so amazing, and I sometimes wonder if you know how amazing you are. And so I'm very lucky and fortunate to be able to teach this workshop that I do because I get to know you really well, quite well anyway. Excuse me. I'm looking at my notes here. I don't know. We hopefully will have a nice little Q&A afterwards. But you know, I did all the big ballets and some small ballets. And in terms of music, I think I worked with the most remarkable composers. Not only the Tchaikovsky and Adam who did Giselle and Bach, but some, you know, just amazing composers and choreographers. And as maybe you don't know, but I bet you do know, singers certainly know how detailed you have to be to really learn the movements, the story, the music, hemi, semi, demi, quaver, and all that stuff, and what that translates into movement and emotion. So it was just a great beginning, but you know, both my biological parents were piano players. Both, one with a classical, my mother with a classical training, and the other, no, he got into jazz. Great. Anyway, I think the most important person in my beginning, other than the artistic director, was Anthony Tudor. I don't know how many of you know that name. Wayne is nodding his head. So she and Anthony Tudor knew each other in England, where they both worked in a ballet company, a famous one actually, even at that time. And she asked him, what did he think we could accomplish? And so we did Lilac Garden, we did Dark Elegies, we did more, where am I here? Lilac Garden, Dark Elegies, Offenbach in the Underworld, which was a takeoff on Gaieté Parisienne, you know, ballet theater did. Am I going too fast and say, no, good. Okay, yeah, and he did it all, and I was lucky enough to be cast in all of them. And so I got to work with him personally, and that was my introduction into theater, basically, because he always initiated a movement with an emotion, and he was a fierce critic if you didn't do that. He was mean. Oh, he could be mean, and he loved being mean. Worse than that, but never was mean to me. I don't know, for some reason, we were simpatico, I don't know why, and I always felt like he was a relative. Anyway, those ballets were precious to me. And at one point, Elaine said, well, what's your favorite role? And I could say Swan Queen, or or the athletic, because all the big ballets are athletic, you know, and these smaller ones are not, except in spots where the emotions get athletic. And so I wanted to say Dark Elegies, which he choreographed to the music of Mahler, the Kindertoten Lieder, in other words, on the death of children. And it's he took it from Mahler. They took this from an episode in a small village where the children all died from some disease or something. It's never really specified, but we can imagine what that could be. And so it was the most uplifting and joyous piece in the whole repertoire. I don't know if you know the music at all, but anyway, in Mahler you say, oh, dark, no, not at all. And the reason was so great because we didn't, hey, you know, this is a chardash from a Swan Lake, or, you know, no, it's about losing your children and coming together as a community. I don't know, I see it choreographically and I feel it, it's wonderful, but we wore, the females wore like canvas, and I had a scarf around my head. I mean, you don't dress up. And there, we were working folk, farm people, and I remember he said, "No, not like that with the hands. Beautiful. No, not like that. What would it be like if you had to do your laundry every day in freezing water? Your hand would be like this." So, gesturing to each other, for example, during the choreography, I don't know, that meant so much to me, and that is the dramatic thing happening right there. You know, that's it. And even when you take your husband's hand, or there are no children to caress, so your husband's hand, and it's this way. So he was adamant, and all through his choreography were moments like that, were fortified and supported. So I think I would leave Mr. Tudor and move on. Yeah, and he was an Englishman, and he used to teach class and do choreography in proper pants, a white shirt, and a tie. And he was bald and very beautiful posture. You know, I love you, Gene. That's how he looked at the dancers. So that was a great beginning. And his choreography was classically based, but you know, there were movements that were deviating a little from, you know, this is Swan Lake or this is whatever, and he would be something, an emotional thing, right? So that's still with me, very powerfully, and we do stuff like that in our workshop. You don't know it, but I do. Anyway, so that's, you know, I created a one-person show which combined acting and dance, which I took around, went to the Edinburgh Festival with it. I'm going to do it here. Wow, I need to not fix it up, but bring it back. Yeah, so I was in a company. Oh, yeah, right. Hey, we went to Africa. We went to Africa. We got married. I left the ballet company, crying all the time. It was more complicated. It was a health issue involved. And so George and I, with a bumpy road, finally got married and went to Africa. We went to Tunisia. This is the Maghreb, right? The north part of Africa that was part of the French protectorate. So they spoke a very good, when they spoke French, you know, the educated people with French, it was a very good French. It was an international French. And everybody else spoke a combination of French and Arabic, which was terrific. You know? Unfortunately, we didn't get to learn Arabic, except for a couple of words, kitchen Arabic. But I got into the dance, and I had 2 children, one child in each country, and in each of the countries I got into their dance, which was, you know, great, quite violent at times. Yeah. I worked in Tunisia. I worked with the Tunisian National Folklore Company, which at that time was very popular, which toured in the world, along with their sheep and their dogs and their cattle and their eggs and their, you know, it was wonderful, wonderful people. But I worked with them on stagecraft because they were marvelous in their indigenous work. It was absolutely fantastic. And music, those instruments, that sound. And so I would teach them stagecraft. So if you are the audience, and they would be doing whatever they're doing in they're fixing the cattle out there, and their wife and the kids, and they come back. So it was, I'm sure it was wonderful to watch, but they wanted to have a little discipline in their stage work. So I did that with them. I always gave them a modified ballet class to start our work. And that was my life, basically, and traveling in this wonderful, difficult, you can't imagine, yes you can, you can imagine how difficult the Arab world can be. One of the most difficult parts was because I didn't wear a jalaba or I wasn't masked, so they thought I was a prostitute from France. Right, okay. You got it. Anyway, and I learned a few swear words in Arabic, which I can't remember. Did anybody speak Arabic here? Wayne? I don't know, I just thought you Wayne. Wayne? You're keeping a secret from me?
I have no swear words in Arabic or in New York either. No, I'm only kidding.
I heard you.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so it was we had to get back to America. 5 years, the French say, after 5 years, you're irrécupérable, which means you're finished, you'll never go home. You'll stay here. So we came home. But home was Ottawa in Canada, where George Brown got a great job there. And I went to teach with at the University of Ottawa, which is a bilingual university. Unfortunately, English and French and not Arabic. Or now Chinese, right? That would be the other language. So I worked there as a lecturer for 7 years, and this workshop, movement music edu, really started to take off there because my job in the theater department was to bring these kids to another place, where they weren't afraid of their bodies or emotions at that time. Now, in any case, they were all degree programs, although we accepted, we used to call them tourists, kids who were looking for easy elective. Yes. They found out it was nothing easy there in dance and improvisation. I also did some directing in both languages, which was fantastic. I remember we did a Greek play, which I don't remember. I'll blow my nose, which we did in English and French, the two departments, which was really fun. But if you know Greek music, Kazantzakis, does that ring a bell? No bells. Well, very great Greek composer. Wonderful Greek music, which is full of emotion and full of everything. All right, so then we went from Ottawa, where I had my own school teaching ballet, and worked in the, as I say, the theater department at the University of Ottawa, with the productions and the kids, and I think, I did it here. You probably all saw when I said, saying the same material. You have your French kids who are just so bouncy, wonderful, and the English kids who are a bit like that. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Anyway, they're adorable and wonderful, and it all turned out just fine. And so I'll be teaching the same thing in both English and French. So the English kids were like, oh, I can't do it. They write you down. yeah. When do we go? When do we start? When do we do? What do we do? When do we do it? So I thought my biggest hope was that they would get together and find some, and they did. They were just devoted to each other, the two faculties of kids. So, yeah, well, here. I think I have to leave Ottawa and go to New York. Is that
Sure.
okay with,
Oh,
is that okay
that's-
with
yes,
you?
Yes,
Yeah?
absolutely. And you could talk a little bit about being on film also.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, that's a little bit later.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not actually. It was in New
Or
York.
later.
But it was, the
or-
film was made in Canada. And, yeah.
Well, I was actually thinking of like Mrs. Randall and.
Yeah, well, that's
Exactly.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was, I'm a member of all the unions except the musicians union. Sadly, I'd love to be a member of that, if I could play something. So I'll bounce ahead to this film since Elaine asked me, and she's so nice to me. I was auditioning in Toronto because I belong to the Canadian Union, ACTRA, which is like Actors Equity here, but it's ACTRA. And it's so fascinating. You know David Cronenberg, the director, right? Wayne? Oh, you know David Cronenberg? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. All right. So this film was Dead Ringers. True story. Two twin gynecologists. And so I went down and auditioned, and David Cronenberg's mother used to play for our ballet class. I know. She was just fantastic. She used to play opera and jazz, everything going. No wonder he turned out to be such a great director. Anyway, so I got that role in that film, which was the character, Mrs. Randall, no relation to Larry, of course, but she was his first, one of them, I can't remember, the two twins, they're very different, but anyway.
Both Jeremy Irons.
Oh yeah, well, Jeremy Irons was the main, playing both characters. And that was an amazing experience because he had two dressing rooms. He never mixed the characters. He was too busy flirting with one of the actresses, and they flirted a lot on camera, and lo and behold, it was cut from the film. I'm not surprised. But in any case, he very quiet, like the director actually. And in one scene, I see him. One of the twins, gynecologists, was a drug addict, and it was cocaine, I think. Yeah, cocaine, probably other things as well. And he came over to me and he said, "Listen, I'm not going to be there for your scene. They're going to put something else in. I have to go do something else." And he said, "So look at me. I'm going to be into that makeup and character in a little while, and I'm going to come and visit you, and you can look at me and see how I am, because when the door opens, it's not going to be me. It's going to be the stand-in." And we did that, and I thought that was remarkably considerate of him to do that. Bye, Addie.
Wonderful, I'm so.
It's okay. She has a previous engagement, like Lola does too. In any case, I just appreciated that. You know, in the the movie set. And, you know, you all did the movie set show here. And she was like, you know how hectic that is. Anyway, so that answers that part.
The
So,
one I want to hear about though is Margarita and I.
well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go into that. No, I'm not going to go into that.
Oh, all right, okay.
What?
Another time.
Oh, well, I'll touch on it, but I won't do as much as you want me to do.
Okay.
This is Marguerite in Exit the King. Anybody know Exit the King? By UNESCO, an absurdist writer. Brilliant absurdist writer? No. Okay, well, that's it.
That's okay. All right. I give. It's okay. All right.
So, all right, so let me go on here.
So.
In New York, I decided, coming from Ottawa, I'm going to be in New York, I'm living in New York, I'm going to study with the best teacher I can find and do what I did in my ballet, my professional ballet life, learn everything there is that I need to know about acting. So I went to Stella Adler, and I worked with Stella for a number of years, and we got on so well. She was like Anthony Tudor. She could kill you with a look. She said, you don't have any right to be on the stage. You have to earn your right to be on the stage. And she always wore beyond diva. She had a gold and red throne on the stage, small stage, where she taught with her dresses down to here, and her makeup and her hair, and, you know, just wonderful. And we got on well because she said, do you know what a dancer has to suffer to earn the right to be on the stage? And people, she said, I do, I know what that is. And so we had this connection, big connection. It's just, you know, it was marvelous. Anyway, so where do we go from here? Oh, we go to San Francisco. No, you know, well, no, San Francisco came before New York. You know, yeah.
You're okay.
So San Francisco, at that time, was an amazing place. It's not like that now. So I hear from friends, so I hear from friends who live there now. They say, no, San Francisco, you knew when you were there. I believe it. So, yeah, I did a lot of esoteric therapies and did a Medea, a Jungian version of Medea. Does that ring a bell with anybody? The Jung part, surely. Well, Wayne?
Oh.
You're on this one. So, in other words, Medea didn't commit those crimes of killing the children. Everybody did. So we did this, what they call a leotard play. Everybody's in leotards and doing this movement, music and you, or music, movement and you kind of stuff, you know. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot about the group activity on this level, and we performed for a long time. We performed for a long time. But I'm afraid I have to leave it, and I have to come back. No, I'm not going to come back. Well, I'll touch on New York again in the sense that I did some really terrific experiential stuff in New York City, where we went from being an off-Broadway company. It got such good reviews that they wanted us to stay on, so we had to move up in the contract. So that means moving up in the wages, in your salary, which was fantastic. and that was called the Yates Trio, William Butler Yeats. And this is, playwright who adored the dance, and so his Irishness. And and I did a big show of Elizabeth and Essex at the York Theatre Company Upper East Side, which was an opera, basically, with some very famous singers. That's it. So I have to move on because they need to come in and rearrange all this. All right, so I'm in New York now, where we were for a long, long time, many decades, 30, 40 years. So it's a lot of time to do so. But I had decided I wanted to be a working actor. Well, that, you never have enough time to be a working actor in New York, or probably anywhere, but certainly New York, because that's where everybody comes to do that. But they want television, and so that's slightly different. Not so much now, by the way, because television has morphed into the feature film quality. I'm not talking about the soaps and that kind of thing, but it's infinitely better quality than it was at that time. So in New York, I did a lot of things, but my most favorite was toward the end of our time there. I auditioned for a play that was at the Armories, on Park Avenue. It was called Tamara. I don't know if any knew it, but it was there. It was what they call a moving play, like a movie. In other words, there were 10 actors, and we were in, I don't know if you've ever been inside the living part of the that venue, but there was very opulent, very big staircase. It's just marvelous. The play was Tamara, who was Tamara Lepicka, who was a very famous Polish painter. I'm sure you know her work. And she was the lover of D'Annunzio, a very famous Italian poet, womanizer, fighter, politician. He was very small guy. And this Tamara was created in Toronto, where they found a diary of the housekeeper, that was the role that I had. And her name was Alice Mazoyer, and she was a French lesbian who swung both ways. She was his lover, and the lover I had in the play was a 14-year-old ballerina. So it gave the audiences lots to play with, except they gave the audiences, included in the price of the ticket, a superb dinner created by Lucille, which is no longer around, I think, and with wine, champagne. So everybody was, they had on the Park Avenue, the Red Cross and the police, in case things got out of hand. It was very appropriate, actually. But I was not hired for that venue. I was hired for Italy, all right? I was hired to take this play to Chernobyl. But first we went to Rome, where we were in one of the palaces, if you like, small palace of the Nazis, right? In the Second World War, under Mussolini, and he had D'Annunzio in house arrest in this palace, and we were all the characters involved in his life, and then we moved on to Lago di Como. Lake Como, and we were in Luciano Visconti's home. I don't know how many of you have ever seen, what's that film? It's filmed, Visconti directed it, no, he did, he directed a film that used the venue. We didn't have a film. They used the venue, and in that venue is the table in the dining room, which is, you can seat probably about 30 people. Huge, and it's a big character in this movie. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember the name of the movie. I will, and I'll put all the things I've forgotten, I'll post in the Chanticleer. So you can put the pieces together. But so that you can imagine how incredible that was. These scenes, the scenes were many of the two-person scenes, right? So the audience would choose their actors that they wanted to follow, and they would follow those actors throughout. And in many cases, I'm leading my group of audience to my scenes, right? And when you go in to your bedroom or your venue where you play your scene, you close the door so that nobody can come in and nobody can come out. Get out, I should say. So I don't know how quickly I can tell this story. Maybe not quickly enough. No, George is saying no. Because we've been told that we have to end soon because they have to change the room for another production. Both of that violinist, yes, which will be beautiful. Anyway, so that was it. Living in Italy, where I was always taken for Italian, which made me very happy. And finally, I didn't want to come home. I did come home. But it was just, the way of life is just so seductive and lovely in the place. But that was an incredible, everything I've done has been this great learning experience, which all contributes to this workshop that I do on Tuesday mornings at 11. So I think, what do I do now? Let me just check. What am I doing now? Oh yeah, I did cabaret. And you saw the cabaret that I've been working on. I brought that here the other week. And actually I'm going into rehearsal with them again because we're going to open in New York at the San Magonde Club, which is on the east side. Do you know it?
Of course, it's an art.
Yes.
Famous artists
Exactly.
grew up there,
Absolutely.
in there, and yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so we're doing the show that you saw in this venue. So you gotta, revive it for this, and that will be on the 1st of March.
Ooh, that's soon.
Yeah, it's coming soon. So I go to rehearsal on Sunday. So it's very soon. Yeah, dun. So here we are. When George and I came to Woodland Pond, thanks to John and Libby Ross, whom George has known for 50 years, and I have too, and we finally are here, and it's amazing. But we were here just a few months when the pandemic descended, and they let their fitness person go prior to the pandemic starting, and so they had no one. So I said, okay, with exercise stuff, I love it, I'll do it myself forever, but I'm not that happy to teach it. But I said, okay, well, you've got nobody, so we did it on camera, and I loved that. I got to know people vicariously, because I never saw anybody in the past, all by myself doing it. Then, and I talked to Regina about music movement and you, but that it was not to be filmed because it's an interactive activity that depends on each other. We depend on each other, the music, and so gradually it became. We chose the timing and had this marvelous group. And we're going to do it. We're going to do another performance piece. I have something planned, and we'll do that. You're gonna all come and see that. Where we're at with that particular endeavor. I'll just say a couple of things about that. Is that I feel so fortunate to be doing that here, to learning from folks in this room as well. One of the things that's coming up in the dance world is combining improvisation or spontaneous movement with choreography, which is how every choreographer in the world, from Balanchine to Robbins to Ratmansky, you say, hey kids, what do you got today? And you put on some music, or somebody plays or drums or something, and they fool around. And that's how you, remember that. If you don't remember it, I won't. I'll think of something different. So that's what we're doing. I'm very interested in doing that. They're already creeping into it, but I haven't told them. Don't tell anyone.
No.
And Dawn back there. Yeah, right. Okay. So that's what I'm interested in. So you see them free, the freedom fighters, as you say, and then we'll put some of their movements that they will retain and work it into some choreography with a theme. We have so many themes that we work with. So stay tuned. Yeah, I think that's it.
Do we have time to talk about the spiritual aspect?
No, we don't. We need to.
We don't
I'm
have the
sorry.
time.
No. What we need is if anyone has questions.
It's 2:40 already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If anyone has a question. What? You don't. I see Jason. You've got a couple of minutes if you have a question. Wayne? Ha!
Wouldn't it be nice if Woodland Pond could get the film Dead Ringers, the Cronenberg film that you were in, and show it here sometime?
It's pretty gory.
Yeah, I know.
You've seen it.
Yeah,
I know,
but
yeah. Well, I think we have to ask. Like that, I say sure. But on the other hand, why did you ask?
I will.
Perfect.
We
Okay.
like gore.
What?
We like gore.
Yeah, but this is yeah. Yes, Frida.
I just want to say that.
Oh, I forgot.
Thank you. I just want to say that the variety of sizes, shapes, and ages that show up on your Tuesday mornings in itself is remarkable. Thank you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. I love it. And you're starting to see this in the dance, in the dance world in general, but also professionally. Different people. Because you go off into the bled, as the Arabs like to say, which means in the country, but far our country. And you see every nose, women with a baby here and a baby here, and she's boogieing away like crazy, and the drums, which are just unbelievably brilliant. We're Africa folk. I know something about the other Indian dance, and but yeah. So I appreciate that comment very much. Yeah, George.
I probably shouldn't be speaking since I have a certain relationship with all this goings on. You've only heard perhaps 1/30th of this amazing career, and maybe we'll have to find another way to get it on. But I know we have to get out of here because what was normally scheduled for the Great Room, a violin performance, has been shifted over here. So Jason and Connor and other people have to move the chairs around to accommodate that. Nora has left sizable chunks, important chunks of her career. She was with a off-Broadway group for 7 years, where she played, directed,
Marguerite.
choreographed.
Marguerite, I played Marguerite in that company.
That's right. And so that's one of the things that occupied her during that lengthy period in New York. And it's been amazing to me to follow along this amazing path to Woodland Pond, where, just as you said, Frida, quite remarkable, disparate group, not desperate, but disparate group, have come together once a week. And some of you are here, but others are welcome. I'll stop there.
Thank you, George. That's very kind. Not Yakov? No, okay, we'll wrap up. Okay, we have to wrap up, we may do something else. I don't know, I always expect a question like, well, does it hurt to dance on point? What do you put in your boot shoes? What do you do when you have to go to the bathroom? I mean, all stuff like that, because they're really huge. Those are huge questions.
Okay.
Gretchen, she's all the things. Thank you so much.